I'm Richard Hefner, your host on The Open Mind. And if my wife didn't already know it, I guess I wouldn't dare say on the air how much I adore, to use one of her favorite words, my guest today. And that's not my usual introduction, nor is she my usual guest, though this table has often been graced by Helen Gurley Brown, longtime editor of Cosmopolitan magazine. As important, I hardly know what I do without my weekly fix. Those so originally spelled, impressionistically typed, energetically capitalized and underscored, continuously exclamation marked letters that Helen Gurley Brown sends me after she watches The Open Mind while wearing out her exercycle. And it's not that my guests and I are just a view from her bike. These weekly commentaries by the real Cosmo Girl on politicians, psychiatrists, religiosos, Nobel laureates, feminists, anti-feminists, showbiz people, doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, you name them, are absolutely wonderful. Shrewd, funny, cerebral, loving, deprecating, always compelling. Maybe she'll even let me find a publisher for them. Indeed, I almost enjoy reading her letters about The Open Mind as much as I do doing these programs. And I wonder what she'll write about this one. Well, Helen Gurley Brown became the editor of Cosmopolitan magazine 32 years ago, quickly building on the success of her best-selling book, Sex and the Single Girl. And though as the new editor-in-chief of International Editions, she'll be very much around the magazine world, the February 1997 Cosmo actually will be the last she'll edit. And there is so much now to ask about it and about her. First, of course, Cosmo is a woman's magazine. And so my first question to Helen then is, what has happened to women in these 3 decades plus since she gave it its spin, her spin? Helen, what's happened?
The inside woman is the same as she always was. She hasn't changed. She has the same emotions, the same needs, the same yearnings. She's the same person. What has changed is the world around her.
That's how you know she lying. That's how you know at the gate she lying already. All that coughing, she lying.
Excuse me, didn't know I was going to do that so early.
Okay.
So many more opportunities are there for her. The world has opened up in terms of jobs, and now half the enrollment in law school, female, half the doctors, female. She can get in and do it and be it in any field virtually. So it is out there for her to achieve, and she is achieving. But the inside woman, person, girl, female,
Right, Amina.
if I may, she wants the same thing. She always wanted what she wants now, which is love and affection and cherishing. She wants a great job. She wants work to do. She may or may not want children. She is who she is, but the world has changed for her.
Yeah, that's funny.
But she's lying, because the whole purpose of the Cosmo Girl and the whole archetype behind Cosmo Girl was or the whole motive behind the Cosmo Girl was to reconstruct this new type of woman to exist, and then have the world be reconstructed around this new type of woman. And so she's saying that she's taking bits of the truth and stretching it, because yes, there are things in there that women have always wanted, but she's not. She's being facetious, because it's things about this Cosmo Girl, this modern woman that wasn't attached to women of yesterday, women of yesteryear, and these new ideas, these new wants, these new needs, these new desires. A lot of these things were not there 100 years ago, 200 years ago. You know, in women, we can be able to look at that. Not saying that women should not have access to doing things, but it depends on the society that you're talking about. Because remember, when they're talking about the history of oppression in women, they're always looking at it through a Eurocentric lens. Remember that. They're mostly looking at it through a Eurocentric lens. They're mostly looking at it how women in Europe or white women were treated, or women in the Western worlds were treated. It's not necessarily a global view of how women were treated. But remember from the last show, Sue Ellen Browder told us that it was women who were well-to-do women who were sitting around bored, who ain't have nothing better to do but to disturb society and stuff. And then it was a group of 27 to 57 people in the room who helped to architect these new ideas. We learned that last show. If you missed Monday's show, you got to go watch Monday's show. You got it right. Nemesis rebelliousness is her mission, right? They're always looking for new trends. So she's lying because we know the inside scoop. We know the inside story on that. Yes, the world changed around this new woman, but it was just that a new woman had evolved. A new woman was socially engineered. And then around that, a new society or new societal norms, new societal norms, new societal ways, new societal patterns were created around this modern women. And she helped create these ideas behind these type of new women.
Because our friend Sigmund Freud asked, what does a woman want? And you've given the answer, but how could it be that the changes in the outside world that you've observed over all these years that you've edited Cosmo, how could it be that those changes haven't changed the inside person?
There are just more women who recognize and will acknowledge what they really want. Our sex was supposed to want to be childbearing and nurturing and helpmeets of men. We weren't supposed to want anything else. And that was all tamped down for years and years. That has just come to the surface. But I think underneath that man-loving, child-nurturing, helpmeet creature was the real thing. Freud said work and love were the two big numbers for men and women, I believe, especially men.
What's going on, Renee?
But women finally are acknowledging
what's
the
going
same
on, my brother?
need. They need to work and they need to love. But my Cosmo girl, who existed in 1965, there are just millions more of her now. But I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. Basic woman has not changed. We are human, just like men. And if I can go even further, I think men and women are very much the same emotionally. Got a terrific article on that in the January issue about men and women are not all that different. What does your sex want? I guess I should ask you and you should get to tell me. But what you want is what we want. You want love, nurturing, adoration, cherishing. You want to achieve. You want to be recognized. That's male and female.
But Helen, aren't you sort of copying out that way? Sure, we're the same in many ways. How are we different?
Anatomically, we're quite different. Viva.
If she's really trying to run with the idea that men and women are only different biologically or anatomically, as she put it, she's crazy. Like it's so much information out there talking about the differences in men and women, but that goes into the social engineering that she was pushing, the ideas and stuff that she was pushing that leads to the, anything you can do, I can do better. We're not different. We only have different parts and all these things here, just modern words of saying what she's saying there. And it's like, no, that is vastly overshadowing the numerous differences that men and women have that supersede our biology, our physical makeup. Because she's talking about like we have like the same emotional needs. No, we don't. We're not built the same. So even within white circles, lefties and righties understood the inability of white men to maintain their economic ability. Fault lines were drawn against the book called Pathology of the White Male. A whole bunch of women then tried to remove the economic imperative from place into these types of contexts. Yep, going for power. Yep. Kush, man, everything is all good. I hope you're doing good over there where you are, my brother. So, but yeah, but let's keep going.
Law.
Viva la, right.
And you're bigger, mostly you're bigger than we are. You're bigger, stronger, tougher. Therefore, we can't compete with you necessarily in tennis or volleyball or basketball. Anatomically, yes. And we are so used to man being the one who fought off the saber-toothed tigers and went out there and killed the lions and brought home the deer meat while we were at home weaving and sewing and taking care of the babies, that there's that residual feeling. It's almost ingrained in us about what a man is. A man is masculine and strong, and he's out there fighting tigers, and we're weak and little and resourceful, and we're the homemakers. So it's hard to rid everybody of that idea that indigenously we are that way.
But that's a Eurocentric view that's a Eurocentric way of viewing men and women. That's rooted in how white people have always viewed the role of men and women. And now you have, those women revolting, going for power, looking for power, vying for power. But that's a Eurocentric view of how men and women exist in their societies. Yes, men and women have different roles. Men and women were designed to do different things, but that doesn't mean that the woman's role is inferior. Right, Renee. Ricardo, look. But I'm just saying, we got to be able to look at it through a different context, right? Because especially what we've been learning through our book readings on Monday and all the lectures and stuff is being able to recognize the difference between the Eurocentric view and a Afrocentric or foundational Black American viewpoint. Yeah, if you look at the world the same way white people do, that's how the Europeans view their women. But is that how the Africans viewed their women? Is that how Black people viewed their women before colonization, before the transatlantic slave trade, before European domination? Because afterwards, we're colonized. But before that, but once again, they're always looking at it through one view, one lens. But I would expect them to. But it's damaging when we do it. And that's why I'm calling it out, because it's damaging when we look at the world through the same lens that they look at it. When we look at ourselves through the same lens that they look at us. It says, ever notice how women's movements seem to come on the heels of civil rights movements? It seems, right, those white women movements always seem to coincide and then co-opt any movement that Black people got going on, anything that Black people got going on, right? Hence, the latest one is the Black fatigue or the wokeness that white women have co-opted. So anything that Black people, like we use to elevate ourselves, it's another tactic, though. We got to think about it. If it keeps happening, it got to be a tactic. It got to be a tactic. So these movements, once again, were designed to actually change the way the society thinks and behaves. We learned that last show. We learned that on Monday. So last time I checked, we had matriarchy in Africa before being very much rudely interrupted by it. It was in Africa, patriarchies, matriarchies, and egalitarian societies and all these things here in Africa. But Black men and Black women had respect for each other, and they had respect for man, woman, and child. Now, of course, we're not saying that. I'm not going to throw it out there and blanket like 100%, but we do know that was a part of the African societies. So let's keep this going.
But I don't think so. In pioneer times, women are out there, if not fighting the Indians, at least they're mending the covered wagon there. They're also doing a lot of strenuous stuff. So repeat, some of it's left over. The idea of man, big, strong, wampum, and woman, little
right,
creature, but it's not true. It really never was.
All right, now I go back to my question about 30 years. First, I suppose I should ask, is there a different Helen Gurley Brown 30 years later? Is that a fair question?
I am so rigid. I don't change in the least degree. I know how you feel about change and what you say about change. And change is out there happening every minute, every second. Change is what we do or what we should do.
But not with Helen Gurley
not,
Brown?
I'm afraid I'm as rigid as a board. One of my numerous psychiatrists, you know I believe in shrinkage.
She's standing on her white supremacist business. That's what she doing. Look at her haircut. Anybody with a haircut like that, you know she ain't changing. She's standing on white supremacist business. She know her mission. She know what she signed up to do. And she's staying on it. And she's gonna help continue to push the narrative. It's a power grab. It's a power move. Understand what's going on.
Said to me about 25 years ago, I was the most rigid person he ever met. He shouldn't have, I mean, he should see me now. He died, unfortunately. But let's say the good stuff is still the same and the bad stuff is still the same. I didn't know we were going to get personal so early. I feel guilty already not to be talking about women's issues and about the world and about magazines and advertising and
but wait a minute,
selling.
we're doing that. We're
talking about me, which
we're
is
talking about
I'm
the chief honcho of Cosmo.
But I'm not representative of a whole generation or a whole sex. Let's just say that some people have changed and can change more easily than I.
Well, Helen, I'm not going to let this go. Why this glorification of your supposed rigidity?
Glorification of rigidity. Not glorifying it, I'm apologizing for it and trying to explain not why, but just that it exists because my rigidity has made a lot of things possible. I was too rigid to go out and screw anything up in terms of jobs. I went through lots of jobs. Then I found the right one. Why wouldn't you stay with something that's working? Ditto the husband, if we can use that.
If the social conditioning is working and if it's helping to push their agenda forward, why move off of it? Why move off of the agenda if it's helping to push forward what they want? If they're getting the results that their desired results, if that's what they're achieving, why move off of it? Luke, man, what's going on? One take only. How you doing? I'm just saying, like I get his line of questioning because he's trying to be tough, but if it's working for him, why they gonna stop? Like she's the prototype of this idea that she was pushing of this type of woman. God, Ashe, what's going on? Remember what we learned Monday. 57 people sat in a room, and the majority of those people, her being a part of the majority, came up with how they were gonna design or socially engineer the way people think, the way people exist, the way women exist, the way women see themselves in the world, the way they relate to men, the way they relate to their children. Come on, man. Right, he already know the answer. Prayer of Manessa, what's going on? We also know this. Also, we know that we were called ugly by our men. No matter how you try to escape this conversation, that's a conversation that's going to happen. What? I'm not even sure what you talk about. Okay. Who you talking about? Black women were called that by black men? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Yeah. You talking about her? We were also called ugly, the dirt of the world, the least desired. Literally, we were called the least desired, like the nation in the description. You're talking about, so I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. You're talking about how white people have described black women, or white people have described black people, or you saying how black men have described black women? I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding where you're coming from. But please hit that like button, you all. Please hit that like button. But Helen Gurley Brown, I found her. So we get to hear her talk about how she helped to mess society up. So,
adjective, the husband. Took a long time to find him. It took almost as long to get him, having so achieved and acquired why would I change? I can't do any better. That's what keeps us married. People look at to him later. I know you like him. I like him too. People are always asking, why the long marriage? It's because I am of sound mind. And I know that even though I could kill him, I couldn't do any better. If I were out there floundering around as a single woman, where would there be a David Brown? So that accounts for some of the rigidity or the lack of wanting to change or needing to change. I still have girlfriends who were in Pulaski Heights Grammar School with me. We started at age 8 in the 2nd grade, 3rd grade. Arts and Entertainment is doing a bio on me, and they went back to all my old childhood friends. I got about 6 of them. They went to Little Rock, they went to Muskogee, they went all over to talk to my childhood friends. They're still my friends. I think you can fit in new friends, thanks goodness, not new husbands necessarily, not even new jobs, but while you keep the old, you surround yourself with the new.
Yeah, but now let me ask you something. 30 years with Cosmo becoming increasingly successful. I mean, it sounds like a strange thing to say, increasingly. It's so successful now. Isn't that a function of your, to some extent, following what's happening in the country? So where is this notion of, or our friend rigid Helen Gurley Brown? You obviously adapted to what's been happening in this country.
Sorry to catch you and trap you so early,
in
but Cosmo's success is not predicated on what's going on out there in the country. Yeah. Cosmo's success is predicated on having a wonderful formula that works. I'll explain it in just a second.
Right, but remember, it's also, and this thought just popped in my head, helping to socially engineer not just a group of women who will vie for power, but a group of women who will be her customer base long term to help the magazine grow and be successful. And you socially engineer these ideas that they buy into, and they continue to buy the magazine to help reinforce the ideas because they're not within an echo chamber. So that just popped in my head. Let me know if that makes sense or not. But not only socially engineering society for their benefit as far as the societal benefit, but for their own economic benefit as well, engineering the customer base as well. It says, this is the white woman version of all white male Illuminati. This don't have nothing to do with no Christianity. I don't care what you disagree with. I'm talking about from now on the creator. Prayer of Manasseh. I'm not sure exactly what you are talking about, but we talking about the sexual revolution. So, yeah.
What goes on out there in the country certainly affects the life of a Cosmo woman, but we don't go out there with a research team and say, let's find out what's happening and let's take advantage of it. What we do is inculcate what's happening into our basic formula. Marriage is in.
Well, Prayer Manasseh, I see you in hell, my brother. I'll be wearing the nice suit with the nice shoes, and I'll see you in hell, and I'll buy you a drink when we get there. So, all right. I appreciate the invite, and I'll see you down there.
This year, it's not in.
Uptight, what's going on, my brother?
You get married, you're going to a cathedral to get married. Lifestyles
change. Right, Renee.
Job opportunities change. Politics change. Travel changes. Activities change. But the basic woman, the one I described earlier, she don't change. Plus, the Cosmo formula does not change. And I've had a tough time with that for at least 31 of those 32 years. Advertisers every month, every second say, what are you doing to change Cosmo? The tired old thing, what are you doing to perk it up? And I have to kind of dissemble with them and do the lifestyle bit. But basically, the Cosmo woman and the Cosmo formula remain. It's a magazine to help this young woman realize
the formula remain. Let's let her talk about the formula again, because the formula remains.
And you're barefoot in the park when you get married. You're going to a cathedral to get married. Lifestyles change. Job opportunities change. Politics change. Travel changes. Activities change. But the basic woman, the one I described earlier, she don't change. Plus, the Cosmo formula does not change. And I've had a tough time with that for at least 31 of those 32 years. Advertisers every month, every second say, what are you doing to change Cosmo? The tired old thing.
And remember, Doc, if you go back and watch the video from Monday, it was a group of men and women who helped shape this, who helped shape the sexual revolution, who helped shape like the second wave of feminism. It was a group of men and women in the room, and the stronger personalities and the ones with the, I guess, the best connections and the most power were able to have their ideas pushed. So it was men and women, but the deeper you dig, the more you'll see, and names were given last video. So you got to go watch Monday's video because names were given.
What are you doing to